Hello, welcome back to my channel. I am Jen who reads, and this video is going to be a little bit different than anything I've ever done before. I'm going to do a complete, hopefully fairly brief recap of Crescent City 1 in preparation for the release of the third book at the end of this month. All right, so I compiled this summary using the book. I've read the book twice, and also just a few different websites just to kind of help refresh my memory. So there's a lot of chapters, and I am going to do a chapter by chapter, very brief summary. Some of the chapters are obviously a lot shorter and less important than others. But instead of saying chapter 1, this is what happened, chapter 2, this is what happened, I'm actually going to do it in parts. So there's 4 parts to the book. And as I'm talking about the chapter, I'll have it listed up here. So that way, if you are just looking for something specific or a specific part of the book, or you stopped watching and you want to start where you left off, that will be an easier way. So most of this is chapter by chapter. There were a few chapters where I thought it was a little confusing because we would learn some really important stuff about a character, and we would learn a little bit in one chapter and a little bit more in another chapter and a little bit more in another chapter. Just so for the sake of the summary, I did sort of put all of those together. So there are a few things, mostly it's descriptions of characters and things that we learn about characters that I did move around in different chapters, but it is what it is. So anyways, the chapters will be listed up here. I do have my computer right here. So all my notes are on my computer. I'm going to try not to read directly from it, but if you see me looking down, that's why. And so, all right, let's jump into Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood recap. So before we get into the actual chapter summaries, there's some important information that we need to know. There is Midgard. So Midgard is the planet that all of this takes place on. And on Midgard, there's 4 houses. So there's the House of Earth and Blood, and that contains the humans, the shifters, ordinary animals, and the witches. There is the House of Sky and Breath. That is the Malachim, which are the angels, the elemental sprites, and the fae. There is the House of Many Waters. That is the river spirits, the water beasts, the kelpies, the myrrh, the nymphs, and the nox. And then lastly, there is the House of Flame and Shadow. That would be the demons, the reapers, the vampires, the draki, the dragons, the wraith, and the necromancers. All right, let's jump right on in. So first part 1 is called The Hollow. And this is where we are introduced to Bryce Quinlan. She works at Griffin Antiquities. She is half fae and half human. We are also introduced to Lahaba. She is a tiny fairy fire sprite, and she is owned by Jessiba, which is the gallery's owner. Jessiba Roga is 400 years old. She owns the gallery. She was born as a witch, but has since defected. Danica is Bryce's best friend. She's a werewolf. So in this chapter, at the very beginning of the book, she comes into the gallery because she needs to stash a sword, an important sword, somewhere for a little while. Danica's grandfather is the prime of the Valbaran wolves. Her mom, Sabine, is the alpha of the Scythe Moon Pack. Danica is second in line, but there are rumors that some think that she will take over for her grandfather. This would ultimately skip Sabine. He gave Danica the family heirloom sword instead of her mom, and that is the same sword that is now stashed at Griffin Antiquities. Then we learn about Philip Briggs. Philip Briggs was part of a human rebellion. He was going to blow up a nightclub, but he was released on a technicality. So he has been in prison, but he was recently released. The reason he did this, trying to blow up the nightclub, was because he was trying to trigger a war between the humans and the Vanir. Vanir are supernatural beings, and in the hierarchy, they are above humans. Let's see. Danica's pack stopped the plot of the nightclub blowing up years ago. He has been in prison ever since until now. Danica's pack is the Pack of Devils. They patrol a section called the Old Square. She is the alpha of that pack. The 33rd Imperial Legion are angels who are the personal army of the governor, Micah Domitus. Micah is the archangel of Crescent City. Crescent City used to be called Luthanion or Lunathion before, and there are 7 heads of the city, and each head controls a specific part of the city. So the heads are the Prime, the Fey Autumn King, the Under King, the Viper Queen, the Oracle, the River Queen, and there is no head of the humans. We also learn about a chimera named Syrinx that Jessica has purchased and is now kept at the gallery. We learn more about Danica's pack. There is Connor Holstrom. He is her second in command. And then there is Natalie, and she is the third in command. Bryce's boss wants her to find Luna's horn. Luna's horn was stolen from Luna's temple, and Micah is offering a big reward, so Jessica is interested in it. The Umbra Mortis, this is Micah's personal assassin. The Umbra Mortis literally has lightning in his veins. We will learn a lot more about him later. Angels have powers that can manipulate weather, and nobody in living memory can harness lightning like the Umbra Mortis. We learn about the Asteri. There are 6 enthroned Asteri, and then they have an empty throne to honor their fallen sister. According to the fandom wiki, Asteri are a parasitic race of near godlike conquerors who are the rulers of Midgard. They rule from the eternal city in Pangera. We learn that Sabine, Danica's mom, hates Bryce. Danica is the only wolf in her pack who has not made the drop into immortality. This is sort of a ritual that one goes through to gain immortality, but we will learn more about that later on. We're introduced to Rune. He is Bryce's half-brother. He is full Fae, but at this point in the book, everybody thinks that he is her cousin. Bryce wears a gold pendant. It is 3 entwined circles. This is an important thing to remember if you are interested in theories of Crescent City and Throne of Glass and A Court of Thorns and Roses. It contains an amulet that Jessica gave her on her first day, and it offers protection against the influence of magical objects. This is important because of where she works. There's a lot of objects in this gallery that have magical properties, and that does become important later on. Ember, this is Bryce's mom. Her stepfather is Randall. She considers Randall her true father. He taught her to shoot and protect herself. In the center of the old square, there is a gate with a quartz arch, and there are 7 of these gates throughout the city. The one in Old Square is called the Heart Gate, and it is in the dead center of the city. There is also a dial pad, and it is a solid gold block with 7 gems. And below the pad is a disc with a sign that says, "Touch at your own risk. Do not use between sundown and sunrise. Violators will be fined." All 7 gates lay on a ley line, and they are mainly used for the guards to communicate with each other across the city. It does require a drop of magic to do so. There is a sign above the gates that reads, "The power shall always belong to those who give their lives to the city." This also is important later on. One thing about Sarah J. Maas is that she does not just put things in there for no reason. Every single detail is important at some point. All right, let's see. Bryce and Danica, they plan to make the drop together at the age of 27. So this does not give you eternal life or immortality. It just significantly slows down the aging process. And it's different for Fays and different for humans and different for depending on what you are. And Bryce is not sure how the aging process is going to be for her once she makes the drop, because she is, in fact, half human and half Fey. Once Danica does make the drop, she will then have more power than her mom, which is why she could become the alpha. To be honest with you, the whole drop thing is still confusing to me, and I've read these books multiple times. All right, we are introduced to Fury Axtar. She is a friend of Bryce and Danica's. Danica thinks that she is an assassin. A lot about her is not known. Juniper Andromeda is another friend. She is a fawn, and she is also a dancer. The pack of devils are at Bryce and Danica's apartment. Ethan is there. He is Connor's little brother. Briggs was officially released from prison, and then 2 university students were killed near the temple, and it happened in Bryce's section, and so Sabine is blaming Danica for it. It was in Danica's section. Did I say Bryce? I meant Danica. All right, so now we're getting into a little bit more story here. Bryce has a date with her boyfriend, Reed. She loves to dance, but she doesn't dance professionally because she was told she had the wrong body type, and she is 23 years old. Connor, which is the second in command, or the second in line to Danica, asks Bryce out, but she turns him down, saying that she doesn't date wolves. She won't date any veneer because she thinks that they're too controlling. Her father was a fae, and he was so possessive that when her mom found out she was pregnant, she left. So she will not date anybody but humans. Connor is still trying to get Bryce to agree to a date, and apparently he has been trying for 5 years. So they're at their date. She goes to the restaurant. Reed shows up late. He is the owner of Redner Industries. And Bryce has had enough, so she breaks up with Reed and goes to the club. She meets Juniper and Fury there, and they go dancing. Bryce doesn't know much about Fury except for that she is good at killing. She sends Connor a text and agrees that she will go on a date with him. And then we learn about some history. Years ago, there was an event called the Crossing, and this is when the Veneer crawled through the Northern Rift and overtook Midgard. This is important, again, in some upcoming theories. In the territory across the sea, there has been a war going on. It's been going on for 40 years. Humans have rights there, but anybody who messes up goes back to being a slave to the Republic. And warrior angels that are slaves have an SPQM tattooed on their wrist, and this is the tattoo symbolizing that they are slaves. And then we also learn that there are other dominant shifter packs in the city, not just werewolves. There's lions, tigers, and falcons. So at the club, Bryce gets drunk and she gets high. She comes home. She finds out that the apartment door is crumpled and there's blood everywhere. She finds the whole pack completely murdered and in pieces. Danica's body is on her bed, and Connor's body is at the foot of her bed. Bryce ends up chasing whatever it was that killed them. She sees it, but she doesn't recognize what it was. She describes it as feral. It had smooth, translucent skin. It crawled on 4 limbs. She finds it in an alley eating an angel, and she attacks it. And in the process, it rips open her thigh and then flees as she is trying to help the dying angel. At the police station, B is sitting there, and Hunt Athalar, he is the Umbra Mortis that we were talking about a little while ago. He is Micah's assassin. He is given all the information on Bryce, and he views her as a spoiled party girl. And he could not find the demon that was responsible for the attack. Then we are introduced to Isaiah Tiberian. He is the commander of the 33rd Legion. He is appointed by Micah. They arrested Philip Briggs again. They think that he might have summoned the demon. Isaiah and Hunt, they have matching tattoos of entwined thorns on their brow. And this is the sign that they were rebel angels. The Asteri made the angels to be servants and soldiers. The Archangel Shahar, also called Daystar, led a rebellion and it failed. We will talk more about this later on because it's important. The angels who followed her into the rebellion are now eternal servants, and they have the brow tattoo. Sabine arrives at the police station, and she thinks, because she can't find it, that Bryce took Danica's sword. We are introduced to Victoria. She is a wraith. She does not have a body of her own. So the body that she is in now is one that is like a loner to her. She questions Bryce. The body that she is trapped in right now is her punishment, because she was also part of the rebellion. Nobody knows who Bryce's father is at this point, but he must be important because Bryce has Civitas status, and I'm not sure. I looked multiple places of what this means, and I think it just basically means that she has more rights and privileges in Midgard. I'm not really sure. Bryce has only one incident on her record. Danica had 7 at the time of her death, but those were mostly before she met Bryce. When she met Bryce, she seemed to calm down a little bit. And Isaiah does not understand why Sabine hates Bryce so much. Hunt, back to Hunt, he knows Fury. So Fury is Bryce's friend. And he knows her as a mercenary that Micah ordered to hunt. He knows her as a mercenary that Micah ordered him to hunt and kill, but he didn't because she had so many powerful allies. I think there's going to be a lot more about Fury in future books. That's just my thoughts. Let's see. They do find a video that Bryce sent Danica from the night of the killing. Bryce was doing a drug called Light Seeker, and she was telling Danica all about this person that she slept with in the bathroom, but please don't tell Connor about it. They also have a video and audio from the apartment of Danica screaming and begging. Bryce explodes when she hears this. She trashes the room that she's in, and then she throws up. Then we are introduced to Naomi Boreas. She is the captain of the 33rd Infantry. She calls and says that they need to let Bryce go. Rune Dannon, so Rune is her half-brother, is angry because the House of Breath and Sky was not notified about all of this. He shows up. He is the Crown Prince and the Valbarian Fae and the Autumn King's son. He owns the Star Sword, which is a dark sword of ancient starborn Fae, and it proves that he is the chosen one. This sword is made of iridium from a meteorite, and it was forged in another world. Rune received this sword from the Cave of Princes, and he was deemed worthy to pull it from its sheath. Let's see. Fire magic is common, and the Autumn King has it, so this will be important. And Rune has power to summon shadows and mist. So we've got another shadow singer. Bryce goes to the gates of the Bone Quarter, and she kneels there. And the reason that she is there is because Ethan, which is Connor's little brother, tells her that she is not welcome at the sailing. The sailing is a funeral. And while she is there kneeling at the Bone Quarter, a creature comes out of the mist. But at this point, we don't know who it is or why Bryce is there to meet this creature. So that is everything in part 1. Let's move on to part 2. Part 2 is titled The Trench. And the beginning of part 2 is 22 months later. So 22 months after the killing of Danica and her pack. So Bryce is at it again. She's at a club and she sleeps with a lion shifter in the bathroom. I don't know what it is about her in bathrooms. And then she attends a meeting with Maximus Tertian, and he is a 200-year-old vampire. So now it talks about First Light. First Light grid power is ran by the light that the veneer emits when they make the drop. It is called First Glow, and it is used for healing and energy for power plants. So basically, like all of their electricity, like their energy, comes from people and other beings making the drop. Again, this part's a little unclear to me, but it's not super important. The drop is generally done at a government center When you reach the bottom, you have 6 minutes to get back out. Somebody has to be there to be your anchor and help bring you back. Rune and Bryce were once very close. They were like best friends, BFFs. He tells her that the Autumn King wants her to lay low because the summit meeting is in a month. The summit meetings occur once every 10 years, and Velabris rulers meet to debate different issues. Bryce acts like a party girl, but she actually has not touched alcohol since the night of Danica's death. She lives in a very fancy apartment that was left to her by Danica. Then we see Hunt killing people and going back to the barracks where he lives. So he is pretty brutal. He is a pretty brutal being. Sandriel, this is important. She is the Archangel and the governor of the Northwest Quadrant. She was Hunt's former owner before he was traded to Micah. Sandriel is Hunt's dead lover's twin. So Hunt and Shahar, she was the one that led the rebellion. Hunt and Shahar were lovers. Sandriel was Shahar's sister. The reason for the rebellion was that Shahar thought that her twin Sandriel killed their parents and framed an assassin. So that is why she rebelled. Sandriel blames Hunt for Shahar's rebelling. So obviously she hates him. And Hunt was deeply, deeply in love with Shahar. He does talk about that later on in the book. And because of the rebellion, Hunt now needs to repay back every life that he took. That was 2,217 deaths. So far, he has only paid back 82 of them. Micah offered him the chance of freedom, so Hunt kills for Micah. So for every person that Hunt kills for Micah, it goes into getting him free. It, making up for all of the deaths that happened in the rebellion. Hunt and Isaiah head to Griffin Antiquities. There was a murder that happened in the meat market the night before, and the victim was Maximus Tertian. So he was the person that Bryce was meeting in the club, not the person that she was doing in the bathroom. This was afterwards. But his injuries were identical to Danica's and her packs. And because of this, they believe that Briggs actually was not responsible. Micah heads to the gallery to speak to Bryce and Jessica, and he wants Bryce to try to find the real killer. Micah is concerned that they think that he does not have the city under control at the summit meeting. So the summit meeting is happening in a month. And all of this stuff is happening. So he is just worried about saving face. This is why he is asking Bryce for her help. There will be a new witch queen formally recognized at this meeting. That's just a little detail that will be important later. Sandriel is coming, and she will be Micah's guest for a month. So I guess that probably makes Hunt a little uncomfortable. And she is bringing Pollux Antonius, a.k.a. the Hammer. We also learn about Hell. This is Hell with one L, and it has 7 territories. Danica and Tertian were friends, but she had no idea. Bryce had no idea that they were friends. The Hind is Pollux's lover, so they are called the Hammer and the Hind. And the Hind actually becomes a little bit more relevant in the next book. Hind's real name is Lydia. And then Hunt is put on guard duty for Bryce to protect her as she looks for the killer. Micah tells Hunt that if he solves the case quickly, he will cut his debt down to just 10 more assignments. That's huge, huge deal. But he warns him, do not get involved with Bryce. Let's see. Rune is the head of the Fae division of the auxiliary, and he has been for the last 15 years. There are a dozen Fae princes, but Rune is the only starborn prince. Sorry about that little glitch. I had a phone call. Let's see, where was I? Bryce met her father, which we find out is actually the Autumn King, which is how her and Rune are half siblings. She met him when she was 13, but it didn't go well. We do learn more about that later on. But Rune would still visit her from time to time until they had a really big falling out. The Autumn King wants Rune to marry Hypaxia, the new witch queen, and he tells Rune to find Luna's stolen horn. A while ago, Rune went to the Oracle, and she told him that the bloodline would end with him. So this comes up a little bit more in the second book, but he doesn't really know what that means. We don't know what that means as the reader. Syrinx the Chimera is staying at Bryce's apartment. She and Hunt are driving each other crazy at this point. Lahaba, which is the fire sprite, she has been a slave since birth. So that's just a little detail that they threw in here. The reason that Syrinx is staying at her apartment is because Bryce actually bought Syrinx from Jessica after Danica died. And then after we learn that, Bryce goes to visit a nail salon. And that is actually important later on. Bryce visits Rune. He lives with his friends Flynn and Declan and Emmett. And Emmett is a hacker. And Bryce asks Rune for more info on the Viper Queen. Bryce shares a list of suspects with Hunt. She found out that Maximus Tertian's girlfriend works at the nail salon, so that's why she went to the nail salon. You know, Hunt just thought she was just being girly and being spoiled, again, going to the nail salon when she should be working on this, you know, investigation. But we find out that she did have a reason for going there, and that's because Maximus's girlfriend works there. And she finds out some stuff. The girlfriend reveals that Maximus and Danica didn't know each other to her knowledge, but that they both knew the Viper Queen. And then that night, Bryce sneaks out, but Hunt finds her. Bryce is wearing a jacket that says, "Through love, all is possible" on the back. Again, this is an important detail. Bryce is at the meat market to buy obsidian salt. She finds the satyr who sold the salt to Briggs, and then she buys some. The obsidian salt is used in summoning demons and accessing portals between rifts. And then when they're done buying the salt, the Viper Queen is outside waiting for them. Bryce says that she only bought the salt to get the Viper Queen's attention, but there may be more to it than that. The Viper Queen has an alibi for both of the murders, but she tells Bryce to look towards where it hurts the most for answers. A lot of cryptic stuff is happening in this book. As Hunt is listing Danica's actions the week before her death, he finds out about Bryce buying Syrinx's freedom. Because she bought his freedom, he can never be sold again. So this is just like another layer of Bryce that Hunt is sort of seeing, and seeing more of Bryce for who she really is versus the image that she chooses to portray. We learned that Hunt was bought for 85 million gold marks. Although Bryce got a deal for Syrinx, she will still be paying it off until she is 300. We learned that we learned that Hunt is 233 years old. We also learned that the week before she died, Bryce and Danica got tattoos. This is important. Rune texts Bryce asking to meet at Luna's temple because there are no cameras at Luna's temple. Luna's horn, let's see. We learn a little bit, actually a lot about Luna's horn coming up. It was a weapon that was used by Peleus, and he was the first Starborn prince. And the demon princes wanted the horn. The Star Eater bred a new demon to hunt the horn. Bryce recognizes a drawing of it Bryce recognizes a drawing of the demon that was used to hunt the sword, that was bred to hunt the sword, and she recognizes it as the one that she saw the night of Danica's murder, and finds out that it is called the Crystallos. During the first wars, Prince Peleus and the Prince of the Pit fought, and before he died, Peleus banished the Prince of the Pit back to hell. And he did that using the power of the horn, and doing so sealed the rift forever, but it cracked the horn in half, which means that the power was broken and it could not be fixed. So now the horn is useless. So now it raises some questions. Why did somebody summon a demon to hunt the horn if the horn is broken? Rune, though, can hunt the horn because he has the starborn power, and that starborn power is woven into the horn. Now, Hunt and Bryce are talking. He tells her that celibacy seemed like it would be a bore, but he doesn't think so anymore because Shahar ruined him for anyone else. So that's a little sad. Poor Hunt. We find out that the fight between Bryce and Rune was because he called her a half-breed slut. That caused the rift between them. Back in Griffin Antiquities, the Godslayer rifle is dismantled and it is hung in Jessica's office. Again, this is detail that you might glance over, but it does become important later on. H calls, sorry, not H. I have abbreviations on my notes. Hunt calls. There has been another murder. This time it was an acolyte in Luna's temple. And also, Bryce recognizes the angel that she saved in the alley the night of Danica's death as Micah. Let's see. The reason that it was kept a secret that Bryce saved Micah, actually, I don't really know why. It just says that it was kept a secret, probably just because to save face for Micah. But Bryce finds out that she is on Hunt's suspect list, so that kind of pisses her off. And then we have a little flashback where Bryce remembers a memory of her and Danica, and they were crashing a stolen motorcycle. Danica took a brunt of the injuries, and she told Bryce that she loved her and that she was sorry. We do learn more about this event later on. Hunt follows Bryce and Juniper to the club, and this is where he realizes that she is only pretending to drink, that she is actually only drinking water. While they're at the club, a bomb explodes, and Bryce protects Juniper, which really makes Juniper mad because Bryce has not made the drop yet. They go back to Rune's. Hunt cleans Bryce's wounds. She's in shock. And while he's cleaning her up, he sees that she has a scar on her thigh, and it never properly healed. It makes her limp, and Hunt always thought it was the high heels that she was wearing that made her limp. And Hunt blames himself for this because he was the one who stapled her wound shut in the alley the night of the attack. And he learned how to do that on the battlefield. So it was not properly fixed, I suppose. And he's also realizing that he is severely misjudging Bryce. It is thought that the human rebels set the bomb off. There was an explosive liquid that was smuggled in, and the crate that it was smuggled in had a symbol of a horn, which was the symbol for a rebel group. So they decide that they need to go talk to Briggs in prison. The Autumn King knows that Bryce, which is his daughter, knows that she is looking for the horn with Rune, and he wants her to have all-day protection from Rune, but Bryce says no, that she already has the protection from Hunt. Rune tells her that he wants to go into the library under the gallery, and Bryce agrees as long as his friend Declan will help her with his research and computer skills. Bryce tells Hunt about wanting to make the drop with Danica in 2 years, and Hunt tells her about Micah's offer. So they're connecting a little bit. They're telling each other some, personal stuff about each other. Maybe they don't dislike each other as much as they first thought they did. Hunt knows Bryce's stepdad, Randall Salago, because he is a legendary war hero and a sharpshooter. Declan sends Bryce coordinates and locations of Danica's daily routine before she died. She was stationed at the temple 2 days before the horn was stolen and during the theft of the horn. In the library, Rune finds information on Prince Peleus and his wife, Lady Helena. He was the High General for the Fey Queen, Thea, and Helena was her daughter. Queen Thea was starborn, and Helena possessed the same power. And again, he reiterates that the horn only works for the starborn. Fey claim that the horn can only be repaired by light that is not light and magic that is not magic. Again, with the cryptic stuff. So Hunt and Bryce go back to his barracks. I think he needs to grab some clothes or something. I don't remember that part. And Bryce notices that he only has pictures of crime scenes on his phone. So she uses that opportunity to use his phone and take a selfie of herself. Hunt tells Bryce that he's not dating anybody. Tells her that he dated somebody, but it ended badly, but he doesn't want to give the details. And then we also find out that Hunt made the drop when he was 28 after the death of his mom. And as they're leaving the barracks, who do they run into but Sandriel? Awkward. Here, Micah asks Bryce out to dinner, but she turns him down. And then Micah sends Hunt to kill somebody. Hunt visits the Oracle. The Oracle is a sphinx. He's trying to get some more information. So he asks why anybody would want Luna's horn in the first place. And she says it is so they can open the doorway between worlds. She says that the horn can be fixed, but she can't see how it can be. The Oracle also calls him Orion Athalar, which is his real name. So Orion, the hunter. Hunt. I lost my spot there. The Oracle asks Hunt if he wants to hear what she saw when Bryce visited her, but he declines. And he also declines to hear what the Oracle sees about him. But the Oracle does tell him that he reminds her of that which was lost long ago. She didn't realize that it might ever appear again. She tells him, do yourself a favor, Orion Athalar, and keep well away from Bryce Quinlan. Hunt asks Bryce why the Oracle would warn him about her, and she says that the Fae have a custom, and when they get their period, or when they turn 13, they visit the Oracle. When she did this, the Oracle clawed her own eyes out when she was looking into the smoke for Bryce. And her father called her a worthless disgrace and kicked her out. So this was when they first met. Obviously, things went bad. That's why they don't have a relationship. They do find, though, an image of the Kristallos on a vase that originated in Parthos. And Hunt believes that it is a myth about the ancient library in Parthos and a pre-existing civilization. So there was this ancient library in Parthos. We don't know where it is. This is important, so remember it. Hunt and Bryce go to see Briggs, and here we find out that the year is 15,035. We also learn about Hunt's past a little bit more. He was tortured for 7 years in an Asteri dungeon, and then in another 2 by his first owner. He thought the owner would make, he then thought that Hunt, would make a good assassin. So he stopped torturing him. So at that point, he had been being tortured for 9 years. He did not see the sun for 9 years. Hunt says that he wants to get the footage from the cameras outside of the temple on the night that the horn went missing. Hunt and Bryce meet Rune at and his friends at the shooting range. Bryce asks Declan to look at the footage. Here, Bryce, I keep saying Bruce. I don't know why. It's Bryce. She shows off her shooting skills, and Hunt is impressed but not intimidated. And then they get a call that there has been another murder. This victim is a guard who was on duty the night that the horn was stolen. All the deaths that have happened so far were close to the ley line, so they think that the killer might be using the lines to get the strength to summon the demons. And then Bryce and Hunt talk about past loves. Hunt says that Shahar, he can't move on from loving her. And then Declan calls and finds out, or tells them that he found out that somebody actually swapped the footage, and it was Sabine who was in charge of that investigation. There ends part 2. All right, on to part 3. This is titled The Canyon. All right, so now that they knew that Sabine was responsible for the investigation, they are maybe thinking, is she responsible? Rune goes to visit a Medi witch to ask her some questions. Can she think of a way that a magical object could be fixed? She says that she doesn't know, but maybe there's a way with the modern healing technology. But he leaves there with no more answers than he arrived with. Victoria finds a grainy image of a demon, but it didn't attack. It wasn't attacking. It was just circling Sabine's territory, and then it disappeared into the Rose Gate. So they go to the Rose Gate, and they find out that it might be the sewers that the demons are using to travel through. Later that night, Hunt is being nosy, and he finds Bruce. Why do I keep saying Bruce? Bryce's Jelly Jubilee in her closet, which is like a My Little Pony. This is really not important, but it is important to people who are fans. It is important to the fandom. It's just a cute part of the book, a cute part of their relationship. She accuses him of thinking that it was a sex toy, and that's why he went and was being nosy about it. But it was just a pink, glittery little pony. Jelly Jubilee actually makes an appearance on the cover of the next book. So that's kind of cute. All right, the next day, Hunt and Bryce go check out the Istros River. We learn that Myrrh can shift into human forms for a small amount of time. So they talk to Therion Kitos, and he is an old friend of Hunt's, and he is a Myrrh. He is the captain of intelligence for the River Queen. Side note, he has a much bigger role in the next book. Therion agrees to ask around for info. Hunt met Therion when he was investigating Therion's sister's murder. And we find out that the Oracle told Danica, through love, all is possible. And that is what Bryce has on her jacket. So is there a connection there? There is a connection there. We find that out later. Hunt and Bryce go to Moonwood. They ask Sabine some questions, and while they're there, Emily Ravenscroft, she is the leader of the Black Rose Pack, and her and even Connor's brother Ethan are just treating Bryce horribly. They know all about Bryce agreeing to go on a date with Connor and then having sex with somebody in the bathroom that same night. And Sabine lies about Danica being at the temple. So that raises some more suspicion. And Ethan tells Bryce that she never deserved Connor and that Sabine wants her dead. Hunt goes out with some friends and Bryce leaves the apartment, but Hunt goes after her, and then they get very flirty, and before anything significant can happen, Hunt is attacked by a Crystallos. Mood killer. They kill the demon, but its bite has nullified Hunt's power. Micah comes and incinerates the demon before it can be examined. He says that he wants nobody to know, and they tell Micah their suspicions about Sabine. They land on the roof of her building afterwards. They almost kiss, but again, they're interrupted, and this time it is by Sabine. When Sabine finds out that they are suspecting her, she says that it was actually Danica who stole the horn and that Sabine was just protecting her. And Sabine threatens to kill Bryce if Bryce destroys Danica's legacy. We find out about a knife that Rune had, and he lost it a long time ago. It was made from the same meteorite that his sword was made from, and there was a prophecy made that says, When knife and sword are reunited, so shall our people be. And this is important, and it's related to some theories. Lahaba is a descendant of Queen Ranithia Dal. So she is descended royalty. Therion sent otter messages. So this is so cute. The mer people send otters with little vests to deliver their messages. I think that's so cute. So Therion sent otter messages to Hunt and Bryce to deliver pics of a body that was found in a Sobek's lair, but the bites were not consistent with a Sobek. And a Sobek is a predator that lives in the river. Bryce said that it wasn't the demon that killed Danica. The demon that killed her left the organs in piles. So now they're thinking, did somebody summon more than one type of demon? So Bryce wants to summon a demon for answers because of course she does. So she summons Adis, and he is the prince of the chasm. And the last time Bryce saw him, she was 13 years old, and he was taking the form of a cat. She doesn't get much information from him, but he tells her to run some tests again and to find out what is in between. Again, with the cryptic stuff. And then he tells her to make the drop already and then find him again when she does. Bryce goes to see the Autumn King. She found out that there were tests that he could have run to see what killed Danica, but that he did not run the test. So she's very angry right now at him. She goes to the bar and does actually start drinking. Hunt brings her something to help her with her leg. Bryce tells Hunt about a photo that was taken the day they got out of the hospital. So remember the motorcycle crash? Danica was doing her thesis on the history of illegal animal trades, and in the process of that, she uncovered an actual smuggling ring, and nobody would help her with it, so her and Bryce decided that they were going to deal with it themselves, because of course they did. And they were caught releasing the animals. There was a motorcycle crash, or a motorcycle chase and a crash. Bryce broke her arm in 3 places. Danica fractured her pelvis and got shot in the leg. And during all of this, Bryce killed some of the shifters. And this is the time that Adis visited her in cat form and told her to make the drop. So she sends off Danica's clothes for testing and hopefully get more answers on what killed her. Micah summons Hunt. Bryce is worried because she doesn't hear from him. And then he returns covered in blood. She helps him shower. This is a key moment in the fandom. Lots of fan art of this scene. And he asks her to stay, so she sleeps in the bed next to him. When she wakes up, she's in her own bed. Hunt is making food. And when she gets into the kitchen, they have a moment. That day at work, Jessica has a knock delivered to the gallery. This is a creature in an 8-foot tank. It has no lips, it has needle-like teeth, and air is lethal to the knock. Victoria wants a meeting. The scent test found small bits of something synthetic on Danica's clothes. No organic, technological, or magical stuff, but a combo of all 3. It was a drug that was called synth. We learn that Hunt does not know who his father is. His mom was a low-ranking angel. No one cared enough to investigate her death. And soon after, Hunt made the drop and joined Shahar's rebellion. Bryce does not want her leg healed because then she will feel like Danica is really gone. Bryce's mom, we learn a little bit more about what happened when she was pregnant. She ran away from the Autumn King and spent the first 3 years of Bryce's life in Thona's temple in Corinth. And then the Autumn King found out and sent some people to track her down. They escaped to Solus's temple, where Randall guarded them. The House of Earth and Blood deemed her mom a vessel for Thona and Randall a vessel for Solus, and thus they gained the temple's protection. So that is how they were protected from the Autumn King. And that's how Bryce's mom and stepdad met. They try to find Synth, and they were told to speak to the Myrrh. And Therian reveals that Danica was actually seen doing a deal for Synth the day before she died, which completely sends Bryce into a headspin. The drug is synthetic magic. In concentrated forms, it gives humans greater power than most veneer. Fury, her friend Fury, knows about the drug and warns B to stay away from it. Bryce to stay away from it. The Mediwitch wants to run some tests on the venom in Bryce's leg to test it to see if she can make an antidote to the synth. Danica's birthday comes and Bryce buys croissants to celebrate, and when she gets home and opens them up, she finds out that somebody wrote trash on one of them. Hunt knows that it was Amelie Ravenscroft, and he pins her to a wall and warns her to leave Bryce alone. Bryce and Hunt visit the Mediwitch. Bryce realizes they can get the venom for the antidote from her leg, and she agrees to go under the process of getting the venom, even though it will be very, very painful. But Bryce goes through it, and Hunt is there with her the entire way, and he even gives her a small kiss when she is done. Bryce and Hunt are summoned by Micah. Sabine and Amelie are there, and they're demanding that Hunt be punished by the living death, which means that his wings are cut off. And they do grow back, but it's very painful, and it takes several weeks for them to grow back. And that does actually happen. Sabine went to the Underking last winter to speak with Danica, or the spark of her energy that was left in the sleeping city, but it was not successful. The Underking revealed that Bryce came and made a bargain for Danica. She gave up her spot in the Bone Quarter in exchange for Danica's, because she was worried that Danica would be denied access. So earlier on in the book, when we saw Bryce at the Bone Quarter and we knew that there was a creature there, but it was in the mist and we didn't know who it was and we didn't know why it was there, it was because Bryce was basically making a deal with the Underking. Bryce tells Ethan to tell Amelie that she is a piece of shit, and that is why Connor never wanted her and noticed her, and to tell Sabine that she will kill her herself if she ever sees her again. So Bryce is top of the angry level right now. Bryce gets into Danica's account at Redner Industries and finds a file named Bryce, and in the file there is a picture of them. Bryce finds that Danica hid a flash drive in her jacket. It was in the L of love, and there are 3 videos on the drive. The videos are from synth research trials at Redner Industries, and we see that a human was given the synth drug, and they ripped a veneer to pieces and then eventually killed themselves. Bryce asks Hunt about the kiss, the small little kiss on the roof. And if he meant it, and he says yes, and then they start a heavy makeout session. He touches her. They plan on doing more. It gets very hot and heavy, but then she hurts his back because, remember, his wings were cut off, and she doesn't want to hurt him anymore, so they stop. Slow burn. Bryce sneaks out to the old apartment to see if Danica left her any clues there. When she gets there, she finds that it's on fire. Therion texts her to tell her that there is a synth deal happening on the river right now. So she goes to the river, and Therion takes Bryce to see the Viper Queen. She's the one, the Viper Queen is the one who has been selling the synth, and Bryce sees that the one who is buying the synth from her is Hunt. So very, very upsetting for Bryce. The Viper Queen set them up. Hunt, Victoria, and Justinian had tried to get the synth because they thought that it would help them regain the power to overthrow their master. Hunt knew about the synth days ago. That it was leaked from Redner Industries 2 years ago, but it ran out quickly. But recently somebody had found a way to replicate it. Micah says that Danica stole, sold, and was addicted to synth. So at this point, Bryce is like, did I really even know Danica? It was thought that Danica might have taken the synth and then killed the 2 students the night that the horn was taken. Hunt thinks that she took it the night she died, possibly took too much, slaughtered the pack and herself, and accidentally summoned the Kristallos demon. Bryce says that she never wants to see Hunt again because Hunt withheld this information from her. We find out that as punishment, Justinian was crucified. Victoria was ripped from her current body. Her essence, or her soul, was shoved into a glass box, and it is planned that they are going to dump the box in the sea. She's just... Hi, Editing Jen here. I was so into giving you guys the summary that I forgot to tell you that here is part 4, the ravine. Just going to go insane. Hunt and the others plan to take the synth to kill Micah and the others at the summit, and then finish things off in the Eternal City. The Autumn King shows up at the gallery to talk to Bryce. Sandriel pays a visit to Hunt and tells him that she now owns him again. Fury tells Bryce that Micah gave Hunt away to Sandriel. Didn't even sell him, just gave him to her. Bryce tries to get Hunt back, says that she wants to buy him for 97 million gold marks. She has a check in hand from Jessica. She then removes the amulet that she wears around her neck. We find out that it is 15,000 years old and worth 3 million, but she is refused. She does not get the amulet back. Instead, it just gets melted down into nothing right in front of her. So she asks them to take her instead. Sandriel says that she knows the Autumn King is Bryce's dad. Rune claims her as his sister, and that way it saves her so nobody can take her. Hunt knows Bryce is going to keep fighting for him no matter what, and he doesn't want her to do that. So he tells her, I owe you nothing, and you owe me nothing. Don't ever come looking for me again. She leaves and is attacked by a Kristallos and tackled into the river water. But she is saved by Rune, Declan, and Flynn. She is so mad. She tells Rune that Hunt is dead to her and that he needs to delete her contact information. All right, now we are at the summit meeting. Hunt is at the summit meeting. He realizes that the new witch queen that they're going to induct is actually Hypaxia, and she is the meta witch who has been helping them. She is the one who took the venom from Bryce's leg. The Asteri appear via a video call. Each Asteri holds the power of a sacred star and could destroy Midgard if they wanted to, aka they are very, very powerful. Therion, Rune, Declan, Queen Hypaxia, they're all there. Rune reveals that he is actually telepathic and he is talking to Hunt through his mind. And then Hypaxia is anointed the queen of the Valbarian witches. Finally, Bryce realizes there is nothing left that she can do for Hunt. Excuse me. The Mer come to the summit because they're arguing against a building a canal that will destroy the fishing industry. So that's why the Mer are at the summit. And Bryce is at the gallery. She's staying there so that she can research in the library. She has applied for a new job, and then Micah shows up. So this is where things go down. Jessica gets a message on her phone at the summit, and it is a link to the live feed of the gallery. So Bryce is messaging her for help. So Micah came there to talk to her, and now Jessica can watch the conversation happen. Rune orders an auxiliary unit to be sent to the gallery when he finds out that Micah is there talking to her. Micah says a lot of the books in the library could get her killed because they're banned. Micah tells her that the library under the gallery is actually the Great Library of Parthos. The amulet that she wore was the same thing that the priestesses of the Parthos wore, and it was really for her protection, but now she doesn't have it. Micah knows that Bryce figured out what Danica did with the horn. We don't know this yet, but we're about to find out. Danica made the horn into a powder dust and mixed it with ink, and this was the ink that was tattooed into Bryce on her back the week before Danica died when they went to go get tattoos. Apparently, Bryce got really drunk, and Danica picked the tattoo for her. The tattoo is in the language of universes, and it spells out a direct command to activate the horn. So Bryce literally has the horn in her skin. Micah admits that he is the one that killed Danica and her pack. He was an investor in the Redner Industries, and Danica was tracking down those who were responsible for the experiments, so he was worried about getting in trouble. Everyone at the summit is watching all of this unfold on screen. They've projected it for everybody to see now. Micah attacks Bryce while telling her the whole thing for everybody to hear. It was Micah who put the synth out on the streets, knowing that Danica would try to get it off of the streets. Micah caught her and told her that nobody was going to believe her and that he would forget everything if she did him a favor and stole the horn. Danica figured out why he wanted it, so she stole it, but then she hid it from him. Micah wants the horn to open a portal and summon an army to kill the human rebels. Micah went to Danica's apartment. He disabled the pack with his power and then injected Danica with synth and watched her kill the pack and then herself. Micah spent 2 years hunting the horn before realizing that Bryce was the key to finding it. He quotes the prophecy, "The power of her love will bring him the horn." Micah summoned the Crystallos. He injected the Acolyte with the synth. He bombed the club, all to raise suspicions against the humans. Bryce is leading him on with questions and trying to get him to talk more and more because she wants to get a full confession out of him because everybody can see it. And then Micah injects Bryce with the synth in hopes that it will fix the horn. Bryce fights back. So Micah grabs Syrinx and throws him into the Nox's tank. And then Micah uses power, blasts power into Bryce's back, but then nothing happens, so that failed. Bryce uses a book from the library to blast Micah into the bathroom, and then Lahaba uses another book to shut and lock the door. Bryce grabs a knife and jumps into the Nox's tank because she knows that Syrinx can't swim. Rune comments that this is Bryce's ordeal. So an ordeal is a hardship that the Fae are supposed to endure before making the drop. The level of the hardship is supposed to be similar to the level of the power that they possess. Again, that's a little fuzzy. I don't really understand all the ins and outs of that. So she saves Syrinx, but then the Nox pulls her back into the water. She eventually escapes, but she won't leave until Syrinx is breathing. And during all of this, Micah is almost escaped from the bathroom. Lahaba wants to help. Bryce tells her that she is free, that she actually traded with Jessica for her freedom the week before. And Lahaba tells her that she already knew about the trade because she saw the paperwork on her desk. But even though she is under no obligations anymore, Lahaba still wants to help. She says, "Let the world know that my first act of freedom was to help my friends." And then Lahaba burns brighter, summoning her power. She unleashes it on Micah as he escapes the bathroom. The power breaks the Nox's tanks, and she repeats over and over again, "My friends are with me, I am not afraid. My friends are with me, I am not afraid." Bryce assembles the Godslayer rifle that we read about at the beginning of the book. She goes into the safe and she drinks something, we don't know what it is yet, and then she shoots Micah. Bryce had Danica's sword, and she slices Micah's head in two and then down through his body. Hypoxia had given Bryce some of the antidote, so that is what she pulled from the safe and drank some of the antidote for the synth. And then Bryce sets Micah's body on fire and vacuums up the ashes. This is also a key point to people who are in the fandom. I have seen cosplayers dress up as Bryce Quinlan carrying a vacuum. Very cute. At the summit, Rune and Hunt are worried that Bryce is going to be killed. But then they see the feed of the city and realize that when Micah injected her with synth, we thought nothing happened. In fact, it did work. It was successful. Micah had opened up a portal through the heart gate, and they see on the feed that the heart gate is unleashing creatures from hell. Bryce drops Strengths off at her house and grabs Hunt's weapons. So there is a portal open in all 7 gates. So hell is literally breaking loose at this point. Hypaxia orders the witches to go and help. Sabine says that they're going to be killed, but Hypaxia responds by saying that they would rather die fighting like Bryce than to watch innocent people die. So Bryce is an inspiration. Bryce is running through the streets telling others to get to the shelters, slaying demons while she heads to the meadows because the meadows is where the humans are. Micah had all the witches' brooms burned and the armory, helicopters, and cars destroyed so that help would be slow in coming. Hunt calls the Viper Queen and reminds her that she owes him a favor. Ethan defies Sabine's orders, and he and the other wolves run to help Bryce. Okay, so now people are starting to get a clearer understanding of what's been happening the last 2 years. And Bryce is just always being misunderstood, apparently. Bryce is being attacked when the Viper Queen Fae bodyguards show up to help her. Sandriel orders everybody at the summit to stay and that the Asteri are sending help. There are shelters at the gates, but the gates are closing, and Bryce helps an injured Ethan. So Ethan came and got injured. She helps him into a shelter. There's only space for one more person in the shelter, so she pushes him into the shelter. He takes the last space right before the doors close and lock her out. At this point, Bryce calls Hunt. She's sitting on the ground. Everybody is still watching her through the city feeds. Everybody thinks that she's given up. She asks Hunt to tell her parents that she loves them and gives them messages for all of her friends. And then she tells Hunt that she was waiting for him. As she points to her heart, she forgives him, and then she runs for the gate. And as she is running towards the gate, she starts glowing. And as she approaches the gate, she says, "I am Bryce Quinlan, heir to the Starborn Fae." Another flashback. The day that she used her power, the day that she killed the shifters when they were doing the motorcycle chase with her and Danica, she actually killed the shifters using her power. And her parents had known about her power, but they kept her power hidden from everybody, just to protect her for her safety from the Autumn King. So she throws that starlight at the gate and orders it to close. So she seals the portal. The Autumn King is obviously angry that her mom kept this from him. Sandriel makes a phone call. She possibly is calling the Asteri and telling them about Bryce and her power and the horn. Bryce is the only one who can wield the horn because she is of the Starborn line, which is why Danica had it inked into her. Danica had put the pieces together before. If Bryce uses the horn, she could open any portal into any world. This is important later on in later books. But the Asteri will probably kill her because she threatens their authority. Remember, they have top authority, but now she could rival the Asteri's power. Hypaxia uses magic to erase the tattoo on Hunt's brow, freeing him and his power. Hunt kills Sandriel. He needs wings to get back to the city, but they're still healing, so he has to take a helicopter. Obviously one that wasn't destroyed. The Asterians are sending Imperial tanks to blast the city to dust to deal with the demons and with Bryce. But Bryce survives, but she is trapped. During this explosion, Hunt jumps from the helicopter to save her. He protects her from the blast. Excuse me. Let me take a drink real quick. This is a lot of talking. Okay. So after the blast, Hunt is injured. He has no legs. He is full Lieutenant Dan. His right arm is gone. There is a hole through his body. He has no wings. So Bryce touches the pad on the gate and asks for somebody to be her anchor so that she can make the drop. because when she makes the drop, the first light that is generated will spread through all the gates. It will send away the demon, and it will heal everything it touches. She tells Hunt that she loves him. And then she hears Danica saying, "Light it up." And it's coming from the bone quarter. Bryce drops with Danica as her anchor. The Underking explains at the summit that Danica had a small piece of energy left, but that a dead soul cannot be an anchor. So Bryce is essentially making this solo drop. The plaque on the gate says, "The power shall always belong to those who gave their lives to the city." So Bryce is going to get her power from the gates. Everybody's watching her drop. She's going down level after level after level. She passes Rune's level. Again, the drop is confusing to me, so I cannot even picture this in my head, but it is what it is. The power from the gates is healing the city. The portals are closing. Bryce's power is just a fraction above the Autumn King. The Autumn King says that she won't be able to climb back up and that she will die. So at this point, Bryce is flatlining. Her body dies. She has 6 minutes to make the search and ascend, emerging immortal. Danica is there, and Bryce, I think all this is going on like in her head because her physical body is still out. Danica is there, and Bryce doesn't want to ascend because Danica won't be there. But Danica encourages her and tells her to stay and fight, and also tells her that Hunt was healed. Hunt is doing CPR on Bryce and using his lightning power to jump her heart. Hunt says, "I heard what you said, what you waited to admit until I was almost dead. You fucking coward. Now come and say it to my face." Boom, she's alive. And then flash forward a day or so, they're back in the apartment, and we see that Bryce is alive, and she has an 8-pointed star. I'm not sure if it's a scar or what it is, but it's between her breasts. Bryce and Hunt finally plan to have sex, but then they're interrupted again because Bryce's mom is calling. And then after that, one of the Asteri call Bryce. It's Regelis. He is the right hand of the Asteri. He tells Bryce and Hunt that they have freed Hunt for her to show her their appreciation and gratitude, but that they must stay in the city and live in peace, and that she is not to use the horn's power. So this is sort of like a low-key threat. Look what we did for you. This is what you need to do for us. Fast forward a little bit later. Bryce is looking out across the bone quarter. The Underking allowed her to see the almost invisible figures of Connor and the pack, but Danica wasn't there. And then we have the epilogue. We see Jessica, and she is meeting Adis in the park. Jessica asks Adis about Hunt, and Adis says that Hunt's father would be proud. So somebody knows who his daddy is, and I bet it's important. And we also learn that Jessica is going to move the library. Okay, so that was a lot. I hope that it was concise enough for you, but also gave you some information, jogged your memory, gave you a recap of the first book. I am going to be working this week on getting all the information for the second book, so I'm hoping that will be out in a week or so. And then it is my goal, I don't know if this is going to happen or not, I would also like to do a theories video because I have listened to some amazing podcasts and there are some very exciting theories. So be on the lookout for those. I would appreciate your subscriptions, your likes, your comments, and I hope to see you around here again. Happy reading.